I got diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer, and that was a life-changing moment. Do you know what, Kerry? I was kind of relieved, it sounds strange to say, to get that diagnosis. It kind of felt like I was dying because the energy of life was draining out of me. I thought that I was healthy. I'm 54 and I love carnivore. I feel like it literally saved my life. It's brought me so much joy. I literally feel the best I have in my life, and it's really helped me to enjoy life to the full because we're all going to die at some point, but we all have a choice about how we want to live.
Is there ever going to be a cure for cancer?
The cure for cancer is.
I'm excited to share I will be at Meatstock 2026 in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, May 2nd to May 3rd, and you can join us there. The lineup is incredible. If you haven't gone to a conference before, this is the ultimate carnivore conference. Everybody's going to be there. Dr. Barry, Dr. Chafee, Dr. Ben Bickman's going to be there, Dr. Berg, Michaela Peterson, Callie Means. The lineup is too long to list, and yours truly will be there too. You can get $50 off right now using promo code HealingHumanity. Special link in the description below. Learn more at meatstockconvention.com. Hello and welcome. Carrie here from Healing Humanity, the power of a proper human diet. And today I'm thankful, grateful, blessed, honored to welcome Stephanie to the channel. Welcome, Stephanie. How are you?
Hi, Kerry. I was just saying it's so exciting for me to be here. I feel a little bit starstruck.
I appreciate it. I'm honored to have you on here. I've heard a little bit of your story. We've done a couple of videos together, and I love your energy. We got to meet out in the UK when we did our big meetup out there, but I've never really heard your full story. And just from hearing a little bit of it, you're very inspirational. I think it'll give people hope and inspire people. Maybe if we could start out, could we talk a little bit about what your health and life was like before you found carnivore?
Yeah, well, that's the weird thing, Kerry, because for almost my whole life, I thought that I was healthy. I thought that I was healthy, but looking back now, in my childhood, I had asthma, I had allergies. They all sort of go together, don't they? The asthma and the allergies, the eczema. And then later on, it spiraled into other things. But overall, I thought I was healthy. I thought I had great energy. But now, having experienced what it's like eating on the carnivore diet, I realize that I've always been sick. And certainly, I've always struggled with my weight from being a teenager. When I was young, I was quite skinny, and then as I went into teenage years, I was a little bit overweight, not much. And then as time went on, the weight just piled on. And at my biggest, I was just under 200 pounds, and it just always felt too much. But it really did drag on my life, as I'm sure many people will relate to. It stopped me from doing things. I didn't want to go to certain social occasions. Nothing looked good. Of course, I think it affects your mind and, your clarity, your happiness, your ability to sustain relationships because you're not as, you haven't got that carnivore zen. You're more highly wound. You're going into those highs and lows. So my health before was all right. I thought it was good. And I was quite surprised to find, how sick I got just before I found carnivore.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? We tend to normalize over a while, and if we just feel a little bit off, and then you do that for a couple of years, and then you're like, I felt normal, but it's not till you get to the other side of that. I've used this quote many times, but you can't see the fog while you're in the fog, and once you get out of that, you find that healing. Like it's almost it's amazing, right? Because you're happy, you feel so good now on carnivore.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
then,
yeah.
is there a little bit of resentment? Like, wow, I mean, I could have felt this way since birth. I could have
Oh
felt this way my
gosh,
whole
yeah.
life.
Can you imagine if I had been the way I wanted to be all in my life? Because you just feel uncomfortable, or I just felt uncomfortable. I'm always uncomfortable in my own body. If somebody suggested, luckily we live in the UK, nobody's suggesting a beach party, or not many people. Um, so, but if somebody suggested something like that, that would cause me extreme drama, extreme drama. And you shouldn't have to feel like that in your 20s, 30s, and you're young, you should be healthy and fit, um and be slim and fit and strong and fit. And it's just such a shame. It's so frustrating when I look around me and for example, we do this little 21 day primal body reset where we're taking people who've never ever heard of this and helping them to get started with what we're calling primal eating, which can be anywhere from carnivore to ketovore. And one of the ladies who came on has got gallstones, she's got a fatty liver, she has struggled to lose weight, she's running a successful business, she's very busy, very successful in so many ways, and so frustrated. And yet, what frustrates me is her doctor told her, don't eat meat.
Mm.
Don't eat red meat, especially. Don't eat saturated fat. And that's the only thing that would be going to heal her.
It's so backwards. It's so backwards. It's amazing though too. Like you think about, you said she's very successful, and then you wonder, she's doing that while being metabolically sick. Imagine how much more successful she could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so frustrating when you talk to people about carnivore, or most doctors as well. It's just a lot of people are scared to start it. And it's like, you should really be terrified of everything that led you to the point of considering carnivore. If you have a fatty liver, for example, horrible for you. If you have insulin resistance, inflammation, you're increasing your odds of all of these chronic diseases we get by having those things. And so many people, it seems like, are just oblivious to that. And it's, well, can't eat meat. That's too dangerous. It's kind of crazy how backwards things are.
And that woman, I absolutely love her because, of course, you're nervous about trying something that your doctor has said do not do. And how I met her was I put a post on Facebook, and it's the most controversial post that I've ever put, basically saying it all started with porridge. I thought I was oh so healthy, and porridge made me incredibly ill. And I had a picture of the bowl of porridge with the berries on it, which is exactly how I used to have it, with a little bit of honey. Thought this was, and I used to make the porridge with water because I thought the milk was bad for you. Anyway, this post blew up and all people were commenting. And this particular woman commented and she said something to the effect of, I'm so cheesed off with this. People are saying, don't eat this. People are saying, eat porridge. Then people are saying, don't eat this. Anyway, when I got to know her and we had, I was messaging her and we had a conversation. I said, look, I'll just walk you through it, on a Zoom like this. And then you can DIY, but also we've got the reset if you want to do it with us. And she came in and she could not believe it. She could not believe what I was explaining to her. And I said to her, but you've tried all that. She said, but what about the veg? What about the grains? What about the porridge? What about all this and that? And I says, but because you've tried all that. And she was like, the penny dropped. We've tried all that. We've done it. We know that it doesn't work. And I said, you will see the difference in 21 days. Most people can see a difference in 3 days. And that is the beauty of it. And that's why it's given me such a purpose, Kerry. I sometimes hear people on your channel say, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I'm like, really? That was before I got my diagnosis. When they get cancer or some other, chronic disease, which is quite difficult. But I think it really is because it was my wake up call. And, I found a purpose in life, and I met beautiful people like you and like our mutual friend George Goodenough. Today I was talking to our other friend Lauren Tucker, and so It's just brought me so much joy.
Oh, I love that. I love what you said too about the 3 week thing. I've interviewed hundreds of carnivores now between the documentary and my YouTube channel, and that was kind of an unexpected thing I learned along the journey. So many people talk about some of them it's 3 days too, like you mentioned, but almost everyone they have something at 3 weeks where whoa, I feel so much better now. Not that they're totally healed, but they always have this whoa moment. And it's really encouraging. Like if you're thinking about doing carnivore and you can't wrap your brain around it, 3 weeks is nothing. It's so fast. It's a blink of an eye in the grand scheme of your whole life. It goes by like nothing. And if you could have hope and healing in just 3 weeks, like why wouldn't you try it? Um, I'm so happy that you found healing and that you're very passionate about this. Can you talk a little bit more about what sort of led you to carnivore?
Yeah. So there I was, a bit overweight, and I'm managing it now. And I'm eating porridge with the berries. I'm eating spinach. I'm eating chickpeas, and I'm eating green juice. And nobody would be drinking, sorry, the green juice if they didn't think it was good for them. I'm not saying it never tastes good, but people wouldn't be drinking that stuff. I wouldn't have been drinking that stuff. I thought it was good for me. I thought I was so smug in the fact that I am now doing the best for my body and for my life. And what happened was in 2022, I got tired, extremely tired. I call it fatigue because it was so tired that people would say, "Oh, well, you've been busy, you've been dashing here, you've been doing that." And I would say, "Well, yes, I have. But also, I've been alive for 50 years and I know what tired is. And this doesn't feel like the normal tiredness, whereby when you take a rest, you actually feel better. It was like it's so hard to describe. I've described it as like pushing a rock uphill. So every day, just to move forward just a little bit, it's hard work. Now, I was not lounging in my bed all day. I was getting up, I was going about my affairs, but it was just a strain to do it. It was, I remember one time, I was going up the stairs and I just caught myself and I was dragging on the banister to pull myself up like I was elderly and I'm only 50. And I thought this isn't right. And I went on a big event in America because we're coaches, my sister and I, and we were up for an award in America. We went to Denver, and we're so excited because it's the big, it's so big there, so big. It's so small here compared, and oh, and it was like a clay oven. You come out and the heat just hits you. That is something we're not used to. Anyway, we were in America and there was this big event, and we'd go, we'd obviously flown there. We had the event one day, it was a lot, then the next day, and then there was an event after the event in the afternoon, and we'd gone back to the hotel room, and I couldn't wait to get back to the hotel room because I was so tired, and I just threw all my clothes off. I was having a bite to eat. I was relaxing, and I thought I'm not leaving here until tomorrow morning because we had a flight early in the morning. And then my sister called me, and we'd had an invitation from like the head, well, somebody we really loved and admired, one of the other coaches who's based in America, extremely successful, somebody, we just love to spend time with. And it's not something we could do any day of the week because obviously we're in the UK. And she had invited my sister and I and another coach to go to her house. And this was a very exciting invite. And I just was lying there on the bed and I just thought, I don't think I can go because I haven't got the energy to muster to be involved in the conversation. And I would need to just go there and just be lying in the background because also I thought maybe I could manage my energy for that, but I wouldn't be able to get up at 3 a.m. or whatever time it was that we were supposed to get the flight. And also I needed to pack. And I just thought, wow, this is a real thing. That was the moment I thought something is wrong with you. This isn't just old age, not old age, but aging. This isn't just the menopause. Something is wrong with you. And I had no idea what was wrong with me. And I was very worried um, about, because I felt like I didn't exactly say these words to myself, but it kind of felt like I was dying because the energy of life was draining out of me. And I've since learned how how you die from cancer or something like, yeah, the diagnosis that I have is, I asked them, I said, well, how do you know if you're dying? And they said, well, what usually happens towards the end is you've got no energy, you want to sleep all the time, and things are going from there. And I thought, oh, wow, that makes sense, because it's like your life force, your life energy is draining out of you. And I wasn't to the point where I didn't want to get out of bed, but I was to the point where I was actually having these conversations to manage my energy just for normal, ordinary, everyday things. And I was confused about what it was. And I didn't just want to go to my doctor because I thought, well, if I go to my doctor, what am I going to say? Because if you say you're tired, they offer you things, flannel basically. Oh, it's the menopause. Oh, you're 50, this, that. I thought I need to actually have something to say. Um, and doctors hear this and they say, no, no, you don't. We can help you to diagnose, but we know, generally speaking, it's not the case. You're just going to get some drugs, and nothing's going to be done to resolve the main problem. So I really was racking my brain, and then I had fibroids, or I was diagnosed with fibroids in 2018. Long story. I'd had some scans, and unfortunately, one of the scans I asked for was in 2020, and the results were not reported correctly. So I wasn't sure what had happened with the fibroids. I didn't know. And I had to then go again. But it was a long area of time before I went again. And I got this scan. And because I wondered if that was something to do with it, because that was the only thing that I knew about. And when the scan came back, it showed that I had some growths on my ovaries, and the fibroids were going wild, and my belly was sticking out a little bit, and I thought that was because of the fibroids, but it turns out there was other things going on. And as soon as they said all these things, I thought, ah, that explains it. It's cancer, because I knew just from common knowledge that cancer drains your energy. And then as I read more about it, when you're eating, it's taking a lot of the glucose and other things from the food. So that everything made sense when I got diagnosed.
Wow. So you kind of you had this intuition that something's not right, which
Yes.
is great because sometimes people ignore that, but it sounds like it was so strong that you didn't. Was there a moment where where it was like official, where you sat down with a doctor and they said, "This is what's going on"?
Yeah, so October 2023, that's where it started with the scans, and they said they don't know what the growths are. They don't know if they're cancerous. Then I went through a different series of scans. I had a biopsy again, possibly a mistake there, because it really grew fast after that. Anyway, had a biopsy, and by January, I kind of knew it was cancer along the way, but in January of 2024, after the Christmas holidays and so on, I got the final diagnosis, which was stage 4, high grade serous ovarian cancer, metastasized to the liver, the kidneys, the spleen, the bowel, and the omentum, which is the whole lining of the whole stomach area. Um, and uh, do you know what, Kerry? I was kind of relieved, it sounds strange to say, to get that diagnosis, that I knew what was wrong, and also terrified because, I looked online on Cancer UK to see what the prognosis was, what the life expectancy, etc., with this diagnosis is, and it is in in 5 years' time, 5 years from the date of diagnosis, 85% of the women with this diagnosis have died,
Hmm.
and only 15%, 1 5, are still alive, and we don't know how well they are. So it was so I was just so sad. I was just so sad all the time. You
Hmm.
know, I was crying all the time. Um, because I didn't want to go, and I didn't feel ready, and you've got your girls, and I've got an adult son, Alex, and my mum, my sister, we're the ones. We spend a lot of time together. We've got a family WhatsApp together, and I see my sister every day, or speak to her every day. She only lives 10 minutes from me, and my mum. I thought we would just be like three little old ladies together, and we'd have a little dash hand that would go between all the houses. And that my son maybe would have kids, and we get to be the three grannies. um, but so yeah, it felt very much like being robbed of something. I didn't know that I had that vision, of my life until that time when I had that diagnosis.
And did the doctors or anyone, did they give you like a plan, or did they give you any hope?
Well, no, although to be fair, my consultant oncologist is she's she's very open, amenable. She's not dogmatic like I hear many of your guests say their doctors are against them, sort of thing. But she didn't tell me what my life expectancy would be. She wouldn't get drawn into that. And she also is open to other things. But her plan is the standard of care. So the standard of care for ovarian is chemotherapy, which is carboplatin and paclitaxel, 6 rounds. You have a scan, and then, sorry, 3 rounds. You have a scan, then you could have an operation, then you have another 3 rounds. The issue with ovarian is that it often recurs, and why people die within the 5 year period is because the chemo stops working. So, and then I was doing some research. I was like a mad researcher. Thank goodness we live in this age, it's all online. And I found that it's very glycolytic. That's what they call it. It's very sugar hungry, the ovarian cancer. Some cancers are more sugar hungry than others. But ovarian cancer is very sugar hungry, but evidently it can live on other things as well. And it's very, the roots are, I think it's the same for all cancer, but even when you cut off the the growth, if the roots are still there, the stem cells of the cancer, it can still come back.
Hmm.
So my situation was, the plan was do the chemotherapy, possibly have surgery, then more chemotherapy. And I had the chemotherapy. I did respond very well, and they did a scan and to see can I have surgery, and there was still the cancer had reduced by about half.
Hmm.
And the things that I'm going to say now, I hope will give hope to other people with ovarian cancer, because it's quite aggressive, and also there's not that much information out there about it compared with things like colon cancer, prostate cancer, breast cancer, and there's not as much research. And so when I had this scan, the cancer had gone down by half, which is good. However, what was bad was that it was still spread out throughout the whole area like it was at diagnosis. And when they do surgery, they have to remove everything that they can see. Even then, it can still grow back, but they have to remove everything they can see. And they have to do a big margin around every tumor. So basically, because of the way mine was spread out, very awkward. Because of the way mine was spread out, I would have been basically perforated. I could have had organ damage. I could have had to have my bowel, have to have a bag, a colostomy bag. I know sometimes they're called colostomy, sometimes ileostomy. I'm not sure what the difference is, but I could have had to have a bag for my bowel, and it would have been a long surgery, a difficult surgery to do and to recover from. I didn't know this, but they have a different surgeon for each organ concerned. So in my case, I would need at least three, possibly four or five surgeons to do the surgery. And I said, well, what's the advantage if I have the surgery? Will I live longer? Will I be cured? I didn't think I would be cured because that's not the way they talk about things. But anyway, what would the advantage be? And they said, well, if you have this surgery, which is so dangerous in my books, you're going to live on average 12 to 18 months longer. And everyone has to make that decision for themselves, obviously. But I decided not to have that surgery because 12 to 18 months longer, when you're going to be recovering for months from the surgery. And in my case, I didn't feel it was a good time to have the trauma of organ damage and all these other things, plus possibly having this bag. And I'm not trying to make anybody wrong for their decisions or anything like that. I think it is very personal, and most people who have ovarian cancer do have the operation. Um, and I would have had the operation had it been different in terms of what the cancer was. So after that, I stopped having the treatment because they only give so much chemo because your cancer cells become resistant to it as well. And so I was flying high then because I'd had the treatment. When I first started treatment, I forgot to say, my belly had blown up like a balloon. So between getting diagnosed, obviously I've had this cancer for some time before I got diagnosed in January. Then after this biopsy, it started growing like crazy. And that's why I thought maybe the biopsy did sort of do something to make it grow, spread the cells or what have you. Anyway, within 3 months, from January to March of 2024, I can't believe it was only last year. It feels like a lifetime ago. But January to March of 20, it blew up like a balloon. Literally, I was getting congratulated on you're expecting, is it your first? When are you due? Blah blah blah. Because it looked so much like a baby. Even me looking at me, I thought I was having a baby as well. Oh dear. Anyway, so I wasn't going to have the chemo straight away. I was trying all these things like the oxygen, the diet, etc. Because I'd heard people say that you can get really good results, but it wasn't. It was growing so fast, and I consulted some alternative doctors, and they said that they hadn't seen anybody in my situation who hadn't had the chemo, although it can work at a lower stages. So I had the chemo, and that was from March to June. Then there was all this conversation about the operation, and I didn't end up having the operation, and I just went on holiday to Barcelona. I was traveling hither and thither, and they were asking me, "Oh, you're not supposed to be traveling, because you could catch an infection." I said, "Well, I've already got cancer, so." I'm lucky where I could catch an infection at home. I thought it made me want to travel more. It makes me want to get in the sunshine. Sunshine is so therapeutic when you live in a cold country. And when I was doing my research, I found so much evidence for sun. It was originally found, or one of the first citations was Florence Nightingale in the Crimean War in the 1800s found that the soldiers in the sun recovered and healed much more quickly. And they set up, in the UK, I'm sure there's US equivalents, sanatoriums, where it's like sanatorium, where they put people outside to heal in the sun. They've done research whereby the patients nearer the window heal first and better than the patients further away. And it totally makes sense. Like the sun is a medicine as well. And so I was flying high, I was traveling all over, I was enjoying the intense relationships with people around you because I'm seen as, or was seen as, quite confident, competent, everything's going well in your life. I don't think, and then people open up to you more now that I've got ovarian cancer. I feel like my relationships are so much deeper with people, and I realize the importance of those relationships as well. And I enjoy them more because that is 100% of what the happiness in my life is. the people the people in my life, the love in my life, the love that I have for them, and that I feel from them. And this whole community of carnivore, it's just brought so much to my life. So I'll pause there and come up for air.
No, you're wonderful. This is amazing. I'm what you said on the sun, I'm with you 100%. I've interviewed so many people. You're making me think of my friend Stephen Lashbrook, who had horrible psoriasis and depression, and he went carnivore, but he attributes a lot of his healing to sunshine. He advocates for getting more and more of it. I'm just for like, hey, whatever humans have been doing since the start of time is usually what's best for us. And for most of the time, we were out in the sun. We weren't sitting inside buildings all the time, kind of thing. Um, when you were diagnosed, Stephanie, just one more question. Did they give you any reason, like was it genetics, or did they give you any cause for the cancer?
No, they just said, some people get cancer. They did the genetic testing, but I didn't have a genetic. Um, but I feel that I know why I got cancer, because basically, from I'm not saying almost from birth, but yeah, I've been eating this sugar diet, healthy carbs, plus the actual sugars, the healthy carbs, the convenience foods. But as I got older, I was more into healthy, but I was malnourished because my body, wasn't eating red meat. In fact, I had a period where I went vegetarian, I went vegan. My body couldn't do what it was supposed to do. And so all the toxins, either from what I'm eating or from the environment or from stress, um, are building up and then not being able to be gotten away. My immune system would have been struggling because every single meal I was eating was just carbs. And then I would be mainly good in inverted commas. And then I would fall in the ditch and be eating sweets and cakes and whatnot. Or I might have a little treat every now and again. But really, when you live that way and you're always thinking about food, and it's the majority of what you're eating for health is a carbohydrate, I was just overloading my body, and my body couldn't cope with it.
Hmm. That was one of the more powerful things I've learned filming this documentary. We were never going to have cancer in it. I had no idea. I always thought cancer was genetics. It's a fluke. We don't know. But I've interviewed several individuals now who say the exact same thing you just did. Professor Seyfried talks about it too. It's like if you have chronic systemic inflammation for years and years and decades, you oftentimes end up with cancer. Do you feel like, there's so much money spent on, we could do a whole video on this, but I'm just interested to hear real quick. There's so much money spent on cancer research, cancer prevention, cancer medication, all of these things, trying to find a cure for cancer. Is there ever going to be a cure for cancer, or is it for the most part kind of self-inflicted?
Yeah, it's just a shame because the cure for cancer is to live better. Um, I call it, live primal, eat primal, like carnivore or ketovore, drink an appropriate amount of water, not 2 gallons or however much they tell you. Sleep well, get sunlight, breathe, ground, walk daily, and have gratitude and social connection. You know, it's just all of these things because the stress builds up because we lose that connection to nature and we lose that connection to the people around us. And in fact, we can't connect because what we're eating is poisoning our bodies and our minds. You know, you've had so many people come on and say, you know, I was depressed for years, or, you know, or maybe you weren't depressed because I didn't think I was depressed, but I was anxious, a little bit anxious, a little bit depressed. And when I started eating this food, that all lifted and went away.
I don't know if you could tell, you got me tearing up there for a second. Just something you said, so powerful. Like, I've been working so hard on this documentary for 2 years, and it took me a long time to learn some things that you just beautifully explained so perfectly. That's been my big takeaway from filming all of these people that have found healing. And it was basically our departure from nature, from what is natural. The further we get away from what is natural for humans, the sicker we get. And we're doing it big time with our food, but also, like you said earlier, we're not getting sunshine, we're not getting fresh air, we're just so far departed from what's natural. It's like the further away you get, it seems like the sicker and sicker you get. It seems so simple, but we overcomplicate it as humans, and we never seem to just take a step back and look at it. And even some of the things you were saying earlier, with food, what about the veggies? What about the plants? What about this? We never take a moment to step back and say, but that isn't working. Like, we've tried all those things and it's not working. So, um, that's powerful what you just said right there. I really appreciate it. So I think you kind of answered the question, but was there a moment though where you're doing all of this research where you're like you came across carnivore? Because
Yeah.
for a lot of people that's crazy. Right? Like, what, these people
Yeah.
eating meat? What is going on here? How was that for you?
I honestly just thank God that I found it because I do not think I would be here in this way, a lively, healthy, vibrant 2 years in. Because I looked up as well, within 2 years, 52% of women with my diagnosis have already died.
Hmm.
And I'm guessing of the ones who are still alive, many of them are very sick. And I thank God. Sorry, I'm not answering the question again. Oh yes, how I found Carnival. I thank God that I did find it because it was just so accidental. Because I have been looking for the solution, vegan, vegetarian. I was reading all of those books. Is it Forks Over Knives? All of these different books about how to eat well. Michael Pollan, Eat Real Food, Not Too Much, Mainly Plants. I was so bought in with that. It so made sense to me. Um, so I have been looking, and that's what frustrates me now when I look back. I had been looking and I did not find carnivore. I had heard about keto. I did not, but I thought it was unhealthy. I did not find carnivore until I was on YouTube and I was just going through, and my algorithm offered me a video by Lisa D. Now she's not a carnivore YouTuber. She's fashion and lifestyle, but she's blonde. She's very glamorous. She was standing there in her bikini, and I thought, wow. And she was talking about what she eats in her 50s to look this good or worse to that effect. And I thought, wow. So I was right on there. And I was just, I was, I was shocked and surprised. And at the same time, it was like two parts of my brain. I was like, this makes sense. This totally makes sense. And I knew I had never done anything even remotely like this. And I switched things up the same day. I went to my fridge. I already had all my greenery in there for the whole week. And I was eating hummus. And what was the other thing? I had these sun blushed tomatoes, which I loved. And I went out, I got the steak, and I threw the veg away because, I mean, why not? I loved veg, don't get me wrong, I loved veg, but I had no compunction with throwing all that green stuff out. Red onions I used to love and caramelize them every day. There was so much palaver to it. Anyway, I got these steaks and I thought, you know what, I'm not throwing out the hummus. I'll eat the hummus with the steak and the tomatoes. And I started eating steak, and it was just as though my body was so excited, you know, my mind was so excited for this food. And afterwards, you felt really satisfied. Like, oh, I felt really satisfied. It was a different kind of satisfaction because my cells must have been calling out for all these, essential amino acids, essential fatty acids. They weren't getting all this stuff. They were trying to put together the jigsaw of the proteins to repair and things with bits. They must have been having to draw from bones or muscles or what have you.
They're
They
probably
couldn't.
like, thank goodness, Stephanie, you finally figured it out. This is it.
I was I was so satisfied. And previous to this, I was a real sugar a junkie. I did not know this because I did not know that all, or I did not have it in my full consciousness that all carbs are sugar, whether it's a healthy whole grain, quinoa, whatever it is, it's all carbs, it's all sugar in your body. This was like a revelation because after I watched Lisa D, obviously, I then found all of the other um, uh, carnivores, yourself, Dante Ferrigno. He was one of the early ones that I found. Obviously, Dave Mack, and all the others who we've come to know and love. And I started it there and there, and I was eating a lot because I just got that sort of big appetite, high volume. When I had the veg, it was like piled high. When I went onto the meat, I was eating a lot. So I wasn't sure. I'm not. I know now that I wasn't doing the therapeutic ketosis. Probably wasn't even in ketosis at all because I didn't understand that knew you needed to eat the animal fat, but what I didn't appreciate is you need to add fat because in the steaks that we get here, typically there's not a huge amount of fat on them. And at that time, I was mainly eating steaks, although I've now transitioned. So that's how I found it, just on YouTube.
And did you notice, other than like immediately, while my body's kind of screaming, thank you for this is what I needed the whole time kind of thing? Did you notice things in the coming weeks after that changes?
Yeah, well, to be honest, and this is what I say to people, really give it time, because I was so weak. I know people probably won't believe it now because I don't look weak or sick, but I was so weak at that time in the fact of, my I was a little bit sunken in. My energy was very low and it remained low. So when I was first on carnivore, my energy was low still. It took a long time, or it took months before my energy fully came back. And while I was in this state of low energy, my belly had blown out like a balloon. And it was like carrying a baby at full term pregnancy. So it was very uncomfortable, very heavy. Obviously, there's depression, sadness, and all of that. So I had a lot to go through. But, when you know you're on the right path, I just thought, you know what, just keep going. And there were three things that made me know that this is the correct path because the voice does keep coming in. Are you sure this is correct? What? So much red meat? Huh? How much saturated fat? Could this be really true? What about if these people are right? That voice was there a little bit, but I was easily able to quash it because of these three things. And the first one is that biology can't be bought. Now, food science, we know, and there is evidence of it, that you can buy whatever results you want. And biology can't be bought in that way. And everybody agrees that the only essential macronutrients are essential amino acids, aka proteins, and essential fatty acids, aka fats. And let's for shorthand call them saturated fats because they're all animal fats. Even though animal fats are not just saturated fat, is a mixture of different kind of fats, but let's just say the animal fats are the essential fats, have all the essential fats, And the animal proteins have all the essential amino acids. All of the essential nutrients that humans need are not in plants. They are missing. They can't be converted. Anyway, we won't go into all that, but you cannot get all your essential nutrients from plants. Even the Vegan Society itself has it written clear and plain on its website. To eat a vegan diet, you must supplement. You must supplement. And the other thing, as an aside to point one, we only need protein and fat. It's very, very important for babies and toddlers and also for older people to get enough protein and fat to grow their brains, to grow at the baby end and to protect their brains at the other end, the older end, their brains, their bones, their nerves, their heart. You actually need these essential amino acids and essential fatty acids. And people are shocked to find, like I was, that in Belgium and in Italy, they've actually made it illegal to feed your baby or toddler a vegan diet. Reason being, there have been many deaths, and also, even where the babies or toddlers didn't die, they have irreversible damage, sometimes to bones, sometimes to brains. So it's just these parents believe they're doing the best for their children. They're not trying to neglect them. They believe they're doing the best for their kids. And I blame the institutions because if the institutions weren't telling us all, oh, go vegetarian, it's so healthy, and go vegan, it's so healthy, it's not healthy. So that's number one. We only need protein and fat. Number two is, as we've already said, and as George will say, it happened in George's story, um, all carbs are sugar. And we can only tolerate between 4 to 6 grams of sugar in our bodies at any one time. Um, Otherwise, we go into, the high insulin situation. And insulin is a growth factor. So that leads to things like fibroids, cancers, etc. And the third one is that cancer loves sugar and PET scans prove it. This is proven. And the medical people know it because when you go to the hospital to have a PET scan, they inject you with radioactive sugar. Your cancer cells take up this tracer solution, they call it, but it's actually radioactive sugar. Your cancer cells take up the radioactive sugar at 4 to 9 times the rate of any other cell in your body. So that's why you got no energy, or many people have no energy when their cancer is in a growth situation. And so, from all of those three things, plus many more that I've since learned, I was very confident on going onto this way of eating. And because of you and Lauren Tucker, I'm now going to go on to dry fasting, which is very therapeutic for cancer. And I haven't really done a lot of water fasting, and I didn't feel I wanted to. But now, through the inspiration of yourself and Lauren, and obviously Professor Seafried, who I must get in this in, that I joined your community, Kerry, Healing Humanity Community, and I love it there. And I met Professor Seafried in my first meeting, and he had a long conversation with me. So I just want to thank you for creating that community and the inspiration and the hope. Because if I didn't have you all, I wouldn't know that this is possible, and I wouldn't have the freedom and the energy and the life I have. So I just want to say to anybody with the same diagnosis, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, whether we're going to outlive our prognosis or not, but we do know that we can feel good now on this way of eating, and we can feel the best we can on this way of eating. And we know from experience that we did not feel good on the other way of eating, and also the other way of eating made us sick.
I love it. It's for people too, there's still people that they can't wrap their brain around it or they can't understand it. And I always just say, like, if you don't believe that cancer feeds on glucose, sugar, like you mentioned, which by the way, the fact that they do that test and they put sugar and the cancer's attracted to it, like you described, that should be the end of the story, right? And then it's just crazy to me that they'll do that. And then while you're getting chemo or even getting that test, they'll come around with Ensure and cookies to give to cancer patients. It's so backwards. Uh, that's a whole other story, but it's like if you don't believe that cancer's feeding off of glucose, at the very least, you see all of these people doing carnivore. They get rid of inflammation, they improve their sleep, their immune system gets stronger, their gut health gets better, their fatty liver goes away. It's like for all of those reasons, you're setting your body up to be a perfect foundation, like to heal no matter what, whether it's cancer or anything else. Wouldn't you want your body to be in its optimal state with the strongest immune system, the best sleep, all of those things? That's usually the conversation I try to have with people that still can't kind of wrap their brain around it. But um, Stephanie, what advice would you give to someone just newly diagnosed with cancer?
Um, I just, first of all, I think deal with it your own way and just be confident in your own wisdom that you know what's best for you. So when you see the doctor, try to slow things down a bit because they do try to rush you in a frenzy of activity. And your family and friends around you will possibly be scared and be trying to push you towards these treatments. And you may decide to have the treatments. You know, I had some of the treatments, but take your time to decide what's best for you. It was easier for me in a sense because I know that if I follow every single thing that they say, my chance of being here in 5 years, according to them, is 15% 1 5. So therefore, that gives me leeway to only do the things that I feel are best for me. And it may be the exact same outcome, but I have lived the life I wanted to during my time here. I have lived to my full biological potential while I'm here. I have had the energy to do what I want to do. And so I would say that to other people with cancer, you don't have to do what I'm doing or what somebody else is doing, but do what is best for you and what makes sense to you. Because some of the medical treatments do not make sense. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. So at the end of my treatment this time, where again, sorry, I haven't mentioned in the story that the cancer grew again after I'd had the first lot and gone on holiday. I had a great time. Come the winter, and that's why I think I should get in the sun this winter. Come the winter, it started growing again. And so so starting again in March of 2025 this year, for three, you know, I can't remember how many months, but for some months up until the middle of the year, I was having chemo again, and it went down again by about half. And the doctors looked at it and said they couldn't do a scan. So then I was said I can't have any more chemo because again you can't have too much chemo because the cancer gets resistant. Um, and they offered me a drug called niraparib. Now, what niraparib does is it stops the cancer cells from healing, repairing themselves, so they should die. Now, that doesn't happen in all cases. However, the book of things that side effects for niraparib is crazy because it stops every cell in your body from healing. So you could have, malfunctions anywhere in your body. Um, and when I looked to see what is the benefit of this drug, there's no extension in life. What they talk about is disease-free progression. Your disease-free progression is increased, so it's longer between recurrences of the cancer. But the actual life that you have is not improved. So my life expectancy would not improve by taking this drug. So I just find that mind blowing that that is a drug where we're stopping every single cell in our body from working so that we can increase the disease-free progression, i.e., the time until the next recurrence, when there's no improvement in life expectancy.
Mm.
Now, I'm only saying this as my personal interpretation of the data. Now, so I could be wrong. I'm not a medical person, so I'm not saying to anybody not to take this drug or that it doesn't help people. But my interpretation was that, and so I, I'm, I'm, I'm not taking it. So what I say to other people who have cancer is to look at what you're offered and then decide on the balance whether you want to take it or not. Because we're all going to die at some point, but we all have a choice about how we want to live and how we want to live, while we're here now.
Yeah, well said. I feel like something that's remarkable about you is I feel like you are living your life to the fullest. You're thriving, and there's people that don't have stage 4 cancer that aren't doing that. Um, it's an incredible testimony. I love your advice as well. I interviewed Professor Seifried. I asked him for his advice if you had a loved one diagnosed with cancer, for example. It was very similar to what you said. Be an advocate for yourself. These oncologists, doctors, a lot of them mean well, but they don't have the same investment that you do. They don't know your body like you do, and they don't have to face the repercussions that could possibly come with some of these decisions you have to make. So you really got to take things into your own two hands. That's one of the sad things, Stephanie, I found with cancer. It's just oftentimes people are diagnosed and rarely they're given a plan or hope other than the standard of care.
Yeah,
It's like that's what you need. You need to have hope. You need to have a plan, and it's also very frustrating that you're going through this incredible thing, this diagnosis, and then sadly you have to do this research. Like you have to find Professor Seifried and metabolic therapy and carnivore and all these things because the only thing that's ever presented in most cases is standard of care, which coincidentally makes them a whole bunch of money, and these other things don't make any money, but we never talk about those things. It drives me nuts. I just wish that like you, I'm not a doctor. I'm a homesteader. I got goats and chickens here. I don't know what you're talking about, but I just want everyone to have the option. It's like, if you're diagnosed with cancer, here's the option for standard of care. Here's the option for medication. And by the way, here's another option, metabolic therapy, that Professor Seifried talks about, that a lot of people have had incredible success with. It should at least be a tool in the toolbox that someone should be able to choose from, but it seems like most people are never even aware of that option unless they find it on their own.
absolutely. And speaking of living to the full, let me say while I'm on your channel that next month I'm going away for a month. I've never been away for a month, and I wanted to get some sunshine. I'm going to Italy, to Sicily, which is the warmest part. And so, if there's any viewers in Italy or Sicily, I would love to hear from you because maybe we can meet up and do carnival things while I'm over there.
Oh, that's awesome. That sounds like a fun adventure.
Yeah, it will be.
Stephanie, you're amazing. I can't believe how fast this went. I had a whole bunch of questions, and I'm sitting on the edge of my seat hearing your story. You're welcome back here anytime. I'd love to share more of your story. But where can people find you and follow you if they want more information?
Yeah, thank you, Kerry, for all you do, and I'm so excited to see the Healing Humanity film coming out. And as you mentioned, we were in London together at the London event you had, and can't wait to see if you do UK screenings. Obviously, George and team and I would love to do a screening. And where can people find me? I'm at Happy Sexy Health, and we're on YouTube, on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. And obviously, I love to talk about carnivore. So, you can drop me a message, or if you've had a cancer diagnosis, especially ovarian cancer or similar, and you want to talk about it, I'd love to hear from you as well. Thanks, Kerry.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.